Particular tape is twofold. First of all, we need to go over what's called the order of fundamental operations in case you need a review or you're seeing this for your first time. Secondly, maybe a second part of the tape, we need to do what's called symbols of grouping in the order as they appear. Now, perhaps the best way I can tell you how to work these problems when you're first learning how, or you are reviewing, is to go slow. Look, think, and basically pay attention to what you are doing. And I would like to do this kind of like the computer would do this, reading the thing. The computer will do an operation, it will scan again, it will do an operation, and this is the way I want to present the tape. Now, it's utmost important to you that you memorize the order of fundamental operations. Now, don't violate the order of fundamental operations in any problem in mathematics. All right, now look. The first thing that you will do in a problem is perform the indicated powers and roots. Okay, what they're talking about here, as you read a problem, if it has an exponent in it, this is one of the first things that you want to do, is take care of your exponential operations and roots. The radicals, square roots, cube roots, things like that. Those of you with a little math know that the powers and the roots, these are nothing in the world but fractional powers. But as you read a problem, you read across the problem left to right. If you see that you have an exponent or a radical, right there is where you start your work. When you have finished that now, when you have finished that step, now you're going to take and look for multiplication and division as they appear left to right. Now, you must remember, it's just like in a reading exercise. You are going left to right. But no, don't confuse. You can't do just any operation left to right. You must follow this order. When you have simplified your problem, removed all multiplication and division, the computer's going to read again. Then it'll take care of its addition and subtraction as they appear. Now, personally, on this perform addition and subtraction, you know yourself that you can do it in any order that you want to in the addition and subtraction. However, what I want to do again on the tape is to slowly go through this thing basically as a computer might do it. All right, so look at the first three again. Your powers and roots first. Then you'll do the multiplication and division as they appear left to right. Then you'll do your addition and subtraction. Oh, but now look, I've got a number 4. All right, when you have a fraction in a problem, a thing that should be emphasized to you several times, a fraction involves 3 things. There is a numerator. That is a problem by itself. There is a denominator. That's a problem by itself. And finally, you have the fraction. So when you are doing fractions, look what this says now. For a fraction, first simplify the numerator. There may not be anything you can do to this problem, but look at it to see if there's any way you can simplify it. When you finish that problem, look at the second problem you have. Simplify the denominator. You could have all kinds of stuff stuck in there. When you've done these 2 problems, finally, you take care of the fraction. Now, take care of the fraction, but look what it says here. Using the above order. You have to remember that a fraction is a division problem. So, here we go. We're going to run down through these things now with several examples. First, I'll be looking for powers and roots, multiplication, division, then I'll do my addition and subtraction. But if I have a fraction in it, I'm going to go ahead and take care of that idea of the fraction first. All right, now, you must memorize these particular rules in the order of fundamental operations. Okay, now let's look at example number 1. Okay, now, in example number 1. Now, we'll start this relatively simple, but now look, the order of fundamental operations. You read into the problem, you put your data into the problem, you read the problem, and you are looking for All right, first you're looking for the idea of an exponent or a radical. There's nothing in here. So then you look for multiplication and division. So you read 6 plus, right there is a multiplication. Now I must do that multiplication before I can do the addition. So if you're in the computer, you were sitting here, the computer in the next step would say that I have 6 plus 5 times 4 would be 20. So the multiplication comes first, so the computer then is going to take care, or you must take care of this operation first. Now, once you have removed all powers, roots, multiplication, division, then you come back and perform your addition, subtraction. So finally in this problem I would have the value 26 when I finish it. It's a very simple thing, but the order must be followed. Now look, I keep talking about that. The reason I talk about that, in some of the high school books and some of the books that we have, and I've read this before, they have problems written like this, and they tell you, perform the operation as they appear left to right. Well, that's not right. That's wrong. You must follow the order of fundamental operations. All right, let's look now down at example number 2. All right, in example 2, a little bit different involved here, but you put your data in, you read your problem, and notice that first thing that you have is a multiplication. So when you read the data in and you're performing this operations on this thing, this is the first thing that you were going to do, is this particular operation. But now, you must be very, very careful. You have a minus 6, that's the value minus 6, times 7. So perhaps a lot of times you need to think of these things, if they have values in them, as if they had parentheses around them, such as that. But this is the value minus 6 times 7. So when you perform this operation, you must watch out about your sign numbers now. You get minus 42. And then, of course, you have plus 8. All right, now, you are performing your addition, subtraction now as they appear left out. Have no more radicals, multiplication, division. But now again, you must be very careful. We are assuming in this tape that you already know about signed numbers. If they are opposite in sign, of course, you know that take the difference, sign the largest. So I finally have a minus 34, this particular thing. A little simple thing, but they illustrate a couple of ideas you have to be careful of. Signs, you've got sign numbers involved in this thing, and there is a definite order as they appear. You first must do your multiplication, division, before you can do your addition. Okay, now let's go back now and look at this order of operations again. Okay, now again, these problems that I just put up were relatively simple, but again, let's look at this thing again. First, I had to do powers and roots. Well, I had none of those in those 2 examples. When I look for these things, then I come back and do my multiplication, division. You must remember to do multiplication and division as they appear left to right. You must first do the multiplication and division. Let's look back now at example 1 and 2. Let me show you something. All right, now look, in this particular problem that I had in example 1, I had addition followed by multiplication. Well, in problem number 2, I have multiplication followed by addition. That makes no difference now. You cannot just go left to right. First, you must multiply and look at the change in the position. You cannot add, then multiply. Okay? Let's go back now and look at this order of fundamental operations. If you notice in this, we've done the multiplication and division. We got an answer. Then finally we did the addition and subtraction. Okay, now keep this in mind. I must do this, I must do this, I must do this. I'll show you an example of this one in a minute. Now, let's look at example number 3. Okay, in example number 3, notice again, problem. You first put in your data, or you have your problem thing, and you start reading the problems. All right, I've got a multiplication. Uh-oh. Got something different in this one right here. I have a power involved. Now remember, you must do the powers and radicals first. So the first thing that's going to happen in here is I read this thing, boop, right here it's going to do the operation. So at this point then, the next step, I have 15 times, I get a value 9 minus 4. So as this is done in this thing, now remember, it's going to give you this value first. It has a power involved. Okay, now, second step, I've eliminated my powers and radicals, so it'll go now to the next step. Remember, I must do multiplication before I can do the other. So the multiplication, I would have right here, I would have what, 45,435 minus 4. Got to be careful here, arithmetic is a pain sometimes. The calculator just ruins you. I've eliminated now my multiplication and stuff. Now I'll take care of the addition and subtraction, so I finally wind up with 131. All right, now again, in this problem, it had a power in it. You must take care of this operation before you can go to step number 2. Remember, step 1, step 2, step 3. Okay, let's look at example number 4. All right, in the example number 4, it's a little bit different. You are reading in your data, and it says that this particular problem, there's a subtraction. Uh-oh. Now, in step number 2, after you get rid of your powers and your radicals involved here, step number 2 has two things, multiplication and division. Well, this problem has both multiplication and division, but there's another part to that rule. It says as they appear left to right. So this particular operation here is going to be the first one that I do. Don't violate the order of fundamental operation. It says as they appear left to right. You cannot do this one first. So the computer then was sat down and said, all right, I've got 10 minus 12 divided by 6 minus 5. So the computer's ready now to go back to work. Are you ready to go back to work? So you again read the problem, left to right, and right here is a division. So this is going to be the next operation that's performed. So this would give me then 10 minus 2. Remember, minus divided by a positive is a negative. Minus 5. And at this point right here, we've eliminated the multiplication, division that appeared left to right, our radicals and stuff. Now, you could honestly do this thing in your head right here, but the computer now will come back and do it this way. As they appear left to right, it's going to say 10 minus 2. The computer is going to say that I've got 8. Then it says minus 5. Then the computer is going to say 8 minus 5 winds up with a value 3. Now, right here, you could have done this particular thing in your head. 10 minus 7, you get the same value. But remember, I want to do this very slowly, and that's the best thing you can do when you start this, is do it very slowly. We have multiplication followed by division. You must do them as they appear left to right. You must multiply in this problem before you divide. Had those been reversed, you would have done the division before the multiplication. All right, now let's look at example number 5. All right, now notice in example 5, what I've tried to do here is put in the first 3 steps of the order of fundamental operations. Now, as you put in the data, as you read the data, as you copy down the problem, step number 1 says powers, radicals first. Well, look right here. Here I have a power. So the first thing that must be performed, this operation, you must do that exponential operation. So your second step then, you would have 12 plus 3 times 16 divided by, when you simplify that, 4 squared, of course, is 16, then minus 2. Now again, we're talking about the steps as they appear. You must do this first. Powers and radicals. All right, now the computer is ready to do the next step. Are you ready to do the next step? Well, step number 2 says you will do multiplication and division as they appear left to right. Now, here again, I've got to overemphasize something. You're going to do this as they appear left to right. Do not do this first. And someone would say, well, I can do some of that stuff in my head. Fine, but your mind, whatever you're going to do the same thing. Just if you will follow the order, you won't make nearly as many mistakes. So, of the 2, multiplication and division, I now must do this operation next. So I would have then 12 plus 3 times 16 would be 48, then divided by 16 minus 2. You must remember that the computer is doing this in a certain order, and we're trying mentally. You were taught to do the same thing. So the computer is going to do that and give you this value here. Now the computer is ready to do something else. You're mentally ready to do something else. Well, the next thing you have is a division sign. So your next step, you would have then 12 plus, now 48 divided by 16 is a value 3. So right here, computer is going to do this. It's going to print you one number, 3. Then minus 2. Now again, you could do this part in your head right here. However, let's just do it like the machine would do it. The machine is going to add, as it appears left to right, that would give you the value 15. Minus 2. Finally, you end up with a value 13. So now, look again. Steps 1, 2, 3. We still haven't got to that fraction, but I'll get to that in a minute. Step 1, powers. Step 2, multiplication division. As they appear left to right. Don't turn those things around. So, blip, it gives you an answer. Blip, it gives you an answer. Now, finally, step number 3, do your addition subtraction. Again, a lot of you could go say, well, for here, I'll just jump down to 13. That's okay in your problem, but the machine's going to do this, and then it's going to do that finally. Okay, now, let's look again at these order of fundamental operations. I need to emphasize something to you. Now, the last problem we had, notice what we had here. Step 1, powers. Step 2, multiplication, division, left to right. Finally, addition, subtraction. Now, I had every one of these in that last example in the order that you follow. I haven't looked at this number 4 yet. What's going to happen when you have a fraction in it? So now, before I give you a fairly complicated type example, I want to look at this thing here. It says, first, the numerator. Secondly, the denominator. And finally, it's going to do the fraction itself. Okay, from this little idea right here, let's look at a simple example, number 6. All right, now in example number 6, we have a fraction. And the thing I want to point out to you, when you have a fraction, there is some A, there is some B. This is problem number 1, this is problem number 2, and finally, I want to look at this idea right here. A over B, it's actually A divided by B. So there's problem number 1, there's problem number 2, and then it says finally the fraction. Well, you have to remember that the fraction itself is the same thing as A divided by B. Now, look, it talks about division in here, but first it says in a fraction, the numerator, then the denominator, and finally this right here. So this is the way the computer then, or basically you should look at this idea. You've got your data in. The first thing they're going to do is look at this right here. Well, if you were programming a problem or something like this, they would use the idea of parentheses. That's not a bad idea. Anytime you write down a fraction, you might ought to think of the idea of that thing having parentheses. It's going to go to work in that one. But that's on the next part of the tape. So the computer's going to read in this right here. You want to look. First, it's going to do the numerator. Well, the numerator, 42 plus 8, that's just the value 50 over 8 plus 2. It's going to do the numerator first. Some of you are saying, well, why can't I do them both here? Well, it would be okay, honestly, but first you're going to do it mentally. This, then this, or vice versa. Just do the order of fundamental operations. So second step, computer will write 50 divided by 10. Now, when you work with fractions, it says first simplify the numerator. Then it says simplify the denominator. When you have done those two problems, it says now take care of the fraction itself, and of course 50 divided by 10, that would give you a value 5. All right, now, again, it's a simple example, but it gets across the idea. In a fraction, the numerator, the denominator, then the fraction itself. And when you get to what's called algebraic fraction stuff, you better remember this order. The numerator, the denominator, then the fraction itself. It's going to save you a lot of pain in your courses if you will remember it. Even if you have to put parentheses around it if you have to. Okay, let's look at our final example, number 7. Okay, now in example number 7, we've got our data already in the problem. This involves 2 or 3 things involved in this particular problem. Now look, this involves a fraction. Now, when you do the fractions, remember, you must do the numerator, do the denominator, and finally the fraction itself. But there's a thing that says on that step number 3 for the fractions, you must use the above order of operations. All right, now, the order of operations was powers, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. But we're working in a fraction. So as you scan or read the problem, the first thing you must do, you're looking at this numerator, and bingo, right there is a power. So the very first thing you have to do is that operation. So your next step then, you would have then 3 times 8, 2 cubed, 2 times 2, 8, minus 6, and then the rest of the problem uses a little pencil here, but it's not going to hurt you to put your problem down so that you have the steps involved. All right, now, you're ready for the next step. You're still looking at this numerator using the order of fundamental operations. First, you had the exponent. Now, multiplication, division. So your next particular operation, you're going to perform this operation here. So your next step looks something like this. This would give you 24 minus 6, again over 4 minus 2, minus your other fraction that you have. Okay, now the machine's going to go through here and do a lot of little one-steppers. I'm going to kind of do a couple of things together for you here. I'm going to simplify the numerator, simplify the denominator. I'm going to go over, simplify the numerator, simplify the denominator. I've got the tricky part of the problem finished. It was a power, then it was a multiplication. This right here, by now you should be able to follow this in your head. So I've got 24 minus 6. That numerator then is 18. Denominator, 4 minus 2 would give me 2. Minus the numerator, I have 10. The denominator is simply 5. There was nothing to do in that one, just the number itself. So it does this numerator. It does this denominator. It does this numerator. There's nothing to do with that denominator right there. Now, simplifying, it says now the fraction. So 18 divided by 2 is a value 9, minus the value 2. And if I don't have some mistake in a problem, we finally wind up with the value 7. So in this particular problem, let's look at it again to start with. It involves the idea of the fraction. Look, you read the data in. You must use the order of fundamental operations while you're doing the fractions. First, the numerator. All right, it's going to perform this power. Then it's going to perform this multiplication. Then you have this particular arrangement on your problem. It's going to do this numerator. It's going to do this denominator. It's going to do this numerator. It's going to do this denominator. And again, there was nothing to do there. Count your blessings. Finally, it'll take care of the fraction itself. Okay, now let's go back. You look at this problem right here. Let's go back and review again the order of fundamental operations. In the order of fundamental operations, here are your three biggies, they call them right here. Powers, roots. You must remember to do those first. Now look what happened in that last example. I put this one into this step right here about the fraction. When you have a fraction, you want to make that problem as easy as you can. So you're going to do this work with a problem involves a fraction. You're going to do this first, but using these three orders. In that last example, powers and roots, I'm simplifying a numerator. Multiplication, division, left to right, I'm still simplifying a numerator. Finally, I took care of the fraction itself in the addition and subtraction. Okay, now this concludes this particular part of tape on the order of fundamental operations. What we're going to do on the next part of the tape is use the order of fundamental operations as they appear in symbols of grouping. So the next part of the tape has to do with symbols of grouping. Okay, now this particular part of the tape has to do with symbols of grouping, where you have several of them in a problem. Now, you have to remember as you go through these things right here, there's some stuff that you already are supposed to know in your mathematics. You're supposed to be able to take care of your sign numbers. You're supposed to know the order of fundamental operations. And what happens in this one right here is where you have a more complex type problem where you have to program the thing to do several types. Now, we start this thing off with basically the number idea, then we'll do some polynomials on that. And if you were doing this on a computer, you would assign some values to these letters A, B, X, and Y. But now, several symbols of grouping. Let's look first, step number one. Step number one says, within a grouping symbol, the order of operations will still apply. You cannot forget the first part of the tape. Now, in a problem, you have several symbols of grouping intermixed. Okay, what they talk about now in the symbols of grouping here, you have parentheses, braces, brackets, radicals. These are all symbols of grouping. But when you have symbols of grouping, all of them mixed up, you start with the innermost symbol of grouping and work to the outside. Okay, now, just some things up here. If I had a situation, say I had a bracket, a brace, and then I had a bracket, and I had a parentheses. Now, kind of think this like the computer is doing this thing. As this computer reads this thing, it's going to, this is kind of like a sound device. It's going to read and it's going, well, it's still pointing this way, going, still pointing this way, it's going, like that. All right, now, somehow in here you have to stop this reading. So, you come back with a parentheses, and you come back with your bracket, and then you have your brace. But the important thing here is that as I read into this thing, it'll read in. Now, this focus back the other direction, it'll come back and work right into here. It'll do the work, and then it'll read, it'll hit, it'll bounce back. Now, it'll work right into here. You'll get rid of this, then it'll move to this one, it'll bounce back. And this is the idea on your symbols of grouping. It'll point you in, it'll turn you back, it'll point you, it'll turn you back. Now, this is where you're in your math. Now, if you're working with a computer, you don't have all of these different symbols, so they'll just use the idea of nested parentheses. So you have, first of all, say you have a parentheses. Well, you got to come back now with another parentheses instead of a bracket. It'll have something like that. And then finally, it'll take care of this thing like that. Now, I want you to look at all those things in there. But it's just like sound echoing. It's going to go in. It's going to bounce back. Then it's going to go in. It's going to bounce back. It'll work. Then it'll go in. It'll bounce back. And then it'll do all that work right there. Okay? So the same idea holds true. We're going to start with the innermost symbol of grouping, and then we're going to work out. Now, there's something in case you've forgotten on your notes now in step number 3. Look at now at step number 3, just in case you've forgotten this one. When you have symbols preceded by a plus sign, all right? In other words, I have, say, a parentheses, sum A plus B minus C. And now, again, if there's no symbol out here, you understand that it's a plus sign, but it has a plus sign. All right, now, when you have symbols preceded by a plus sign, reviewing you now, you know that all you have to do in this case, there's no changes necessary, so this problem is very simply A plus B minus C. If you have a plus sign, you may remove those simply by just dropping the terms out of it. Okay, now here's the one you have to be careful about. I have a symbol of grouping, and inside this symbol of grouping, I've got sum A minus B minus C. It is preceded by a minus sign. Now, be careful. Remember, if you have a symbol of grouping preceded by a minus sign, there's only one way you can eliminate that thing. You must change the sign of each and every term. Now, you want to be extremely careful here. As I work through this thing, I have a minus, and we're looking at A. There's no sign there, so it's understood to be positive. So this becomes minus A. Now, watch out. Go slow. Now I'm taking this sign and this sign. Okay, minus a minus, you must remember to change that to a positive value. This is where you get a lot of mistakes in removing symbols of grouping. You don't pay attention to each term independently. Finally, I'm going from this sign to this sign. Minus a minus again makes it positive. So the key in this situation is that you must change the sign of each and every term in this symbol grouping preceded by a minus sign. A lot of people will come in here, they'll forget to change this one or this one or this one. You take your time when it's preceded by a minus sign. Take your time one piece at a time. Again, the best thing I can tell you here is go slow. Think until you get the routine down. Okay, let's look again now at how we're going to approach the problems. All right, the order of operations will still apply. We have several symbols of grouping. We want to get rid of all of this garbage so that we have a nice, simple problem to work with. We will start with the innermost, and then we will work out, then we will work out. Finally, we'll simplify our example. All right, now, let's look at example number 1. Okay, for example number 1, now remember, we have to follow the order of fundamental operations. We're going to start with the innermost and work to the outside. So, computer's going to come in here, and it's going to read. All right, now look, this is pointing this direction. It's going to go in, it's going to hit, it's going to bounce back, it's going to do this work right in here. So, on the computer, this right here is going to be the first operation that it's performed. So, that's going to give you then 5, 10, minus 2. And I'm going to go ahead now and still use these parentheses just for a minute. I want to show you something. Now, inside this symbol of grouping, it's going to follow the order of fundamental operations. It's going to give you that number right there. Now, you have to remember, on a computer, this is a multiplication. All right? So, now, the computer again is going to start reading. It's going to move in. Here is a multiplication. So your next step then, you would have 5, 10. Now, minus times a plus. This is a plus 1. This would give me minus 2, plus 1, and then bracket. Now, you're ready to go to the next step. Some say, hey, can I do 2 or 3 digits in my head? Yeah, if you just don't ever violate the order of fundamental operation. But the machine will run through. It's pointing in. It will hit. It will bounce back. It will perform this bit of work right here. Okay, now, I'll start doing some of this in my head. So this will give you 5. Inside this bracket now, the computer will say 10 minus 2. That will give you 8, plus 1. It still is working inside. This would give you 5, bracket, 9. Now, it has simplified everything as it's come down here. It'll do this. It'll do this. Now you have a single value here. Remember, this is a multiplication that you have. You're still not through. The machine is ready to do the next step, or you are ready. And this, of course, is 5 times 9, or 45. So you will start with the innermost symbol of grouping. You will start here. You will get a value. Once you get that value, order of fundamental operations. Here is a multiplication. It will give you that particular value. It will read, bounce, it will work, give you this. It will work. Finally, you have a multiplication problem. Okay, let's look at example number 2. Okay, in example number 2, notice again we have several symbols of grouping. Where do you start first? Okay, when you have several symbols of grouping, you start with the innermost symbol of grouping. In other words, it will run you through, it will hit, it will bounce back, bloop, 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 it'll do your work right here. It'll finish, it'll go over, it'll bounce back, bloop, 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 it'll work right into there. So, right here then is be your first place that you want to work using the order of fundamental operations. So your second step on this problem, you have 18 plus 14 minus 5. Now, again, I'm going to use the parentheses idea right here. 6 minus 4 is the value 2. So that's the first thing that you would do with this one. Then, of course, plus 7, and you have your bracket. So now you're ready to read again. You have simplified everything in here. You have the value 2. Order of fundamental operations. Now we're working in here. It reads, it gets you right into here. Notice that right here, from your algebra, this is multiplication. You must do the multiplication before you do the addition subtraction. So your next step, you have 14. Now, minus times a positive, again, minus 10, plus 7, that would be your next step. Machine is still working. It's bouncing around in here. So your next step, have a bracket, would be 14 minus 10. That's going to give you 4 plus 7, bracket. All right? Now, in this idea right here, now you could do this in your head right now, but remember, I'm just trying to run through each and every step that you follow through. All right, then that would give you 18 plus, further simplifying this, that would give you 11. And the bracket now, notice what happens right here. Inside this bracket, I may have left that off on the other problem, but inside this bracket, I have a single answer, 11. It's preceded by a plus sign. Remember, if it's preceded by a plus sign, all you have to do is drop those things off of there. So that would give you then 18 plus 11. It's through with that. Now say I may have left that off the last example, but you got the idea of a plus sign setting in front of this bracket. And finally, when you finish this, you have 29, if I don't have some kind of silly mistake. But again, it will read, it will work here first. It will give you an answer. This is multiplication. It will do. Now it's working in here. It comes over, it bounces back. It will perform this operation. All right? Then it's going to perform this operation. Preceded by a plus sign. That means I can just drop those things out of there. Finally, I have 18 plus 11, 29 if I don't have a little mistake. Okay, let's look at example 3 now. Okay, example number 3. Notice in this one I've got fractions involved with this one as well as symbols of grouping. But now recall back on the order of fundamental operations. The machine's going to go through, it's going to read this right here, it's going to come back. Well, you've got a fraction setting in here. The order of fundamental operations says, first, do the numerator. So, 6 minus 4 will give me a value 2. Then it says, now, do the denominator. All right? 7 minus 4 gives me a value 3. So I have taken care of the numerator. I've taken care of the denominator. So I've simplified it, and I'm getting ready to take care of the fraction itself. Okay, well, let's just leave this one a minute. Now, look at this next one over here. Here again, symbols of grouping is going to read. But now notice, first the numerator. Watch out, right here is multiplication. You are simplifying the numerator using the order of fundamental operations. You must perform this operation first. So I have 14 plus 6. All right, now, I still have not finished now in this right here. I'm still simplifying this fraction in here. Multiply first. All right, we've done what we need to do with this one right here. We'll take care of the fraction in a minute. Now I'm still working with this numerator. So in this symbol of grouping that I have right here, this would give me 20 over 5. Okay, now, look again what has happened. We work inside these things of fractions. We do the numerator, we do the denominator. We do the numerator, watch out, order of fundamental operations. All right. Finally now, we're ready to take care of the fraction itself. The fraction that we have here using arithmetic is 2/3. Oh, by the way, the computer right now is going to use decimals in this thing right here, whatever scientific notation or stuff that you need. Then you would have here 20 divided by 5. A lot of people just like to write 4 in there, but because I'm working with fractions, I like to write it as 401. And then now, multiplication. I'm multiplying, so this would give me then 2 times 4 would give me 8. 3 times 1 would give me 3. Then I reduce. Finally, I have 8 over 3. So when you have fractions involved in these symbols of grouping, go back, remember what you've already learned in order of fundamental operations. Numerator, denominator. Numerator, denominator. Take your time, all right? Finally, you take care of the fraction itself. This would be 2/3, 4 over 1, and now I'm back to multiplying. All right, now let's look at example number 4. Okay, now notice in example number 4, we have the braces, we have brackets, we've got parentheses, we got them all in there. All right, where do you start first? All right, you read in, it throws you in, you work right here. And then you will work right here. All right? Now, so I would be working in this area right here. All right, so your first step then, you would have minus 4. Now, simplifying this symbol of grouping, and I'm going to use those parentheses again, I have minus. Inside that parentheses, I have a minus 3. I have plus 3 minus, give my minus 3. Plus, inside the parentheses, I have 4 minus 1, or value 3. All right? Now, in the computer, or when you're working this, you're still working in this area right here. But now, because I already know something, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this situation that I have right here. Working inside these parentheses again, I'm going to have a minus, and inside that parentheses I have a value 2. All right? Don't forget, don't leave off your symbols of grouping. You could have waited on this one right here, but because it's a simple thing setting by itself, I'm going to take care of it. All right, now, inside, we're still working inside. This right here is a parentheses preceded by a minus sign. Remember, you must change those signs, so that gives me a plus 3. Preceded by a plus sign, I can just drop them. And then I have preceded by a minus sign, I have minus 2. I'm still working in this area. Notice I've eliminated now all of my parentheses. I have then my bracket. Inside this right here, I have 4 plus 3 plus 3. I'll put it all in one step this time. I have 4 plus 3, 7 plus 3. I have value 10. And this minus 2. And my braces. All right, I have a symbol of grouping preceded by a minus sign. You must change the signs within. That is a positive 10. So I have then brace, or minus 10. Now watch out, this is still here. minus 2. The computer is going to read, perform the operation, minus a minus. I have minus 12, preceded by a plus sign. It's simply minus 12. So, similar to what the computer will do, it'll start with the parentheses, it'll eliminate the parentheses. Then it'll go to the bracket. It'll do its work for the bracket. Then it'll go to the braces using the order of fundamental operations. Okay, let's look at example number 5. Okay, in example number 5, you got your problem, you decide where do you work first. Now notice in this one I've got A's, in this one I've got some literal values or variable terms. The machine, you would have to assign some kind of value to A. But now, simplifying this. So you start on the innermost symbol of grouping. This is my innermost symbol of grouping, and I will take care of that. Notice it's preceded by a minus sign. So that would give me 1. Now 5A, 4, 2A. Now, you must remember, you have a minus sign. When you have a minus sign, the terms within must be changed. So this would give me then minus 3A, minus 2, and again, I'm still working inside here. I've taken care of that symbol of grouping. Now I'm working in here. So we'd have 1, braces. Now, inside of this, combining my like terms, I would have 2A minus A, or 3A would give me minus A. 4 minus 2 would give me plus 2. All right, I have a symbol of grouping preceded by a minus sign. Remember, to change each of the signs within, you have to remember, have to change both those signs. So I will have 1. I would have then 5A. Now, minus a minus, minus plus, and I have eliminated my bracket. The parentheses, then the bracket. Finally, I'm working in this area, simplifying, doing everything that I can. I would have 1 plus my bracket. I would have 6A minus 2. I've simplified all I can in that braces that I have. This is preceded by a plus sign, so I can simply drop those off. So I have 1 plus 6A. Remember, that's positive. It doesn't have a sign. Minus 2. And then simplifying, this I have then 6A. 1 minus 2, I would have minus 1. So in this problem, with the literal values involved, I simply start on the innermost symbol of grouping, work myself very methodically to the outside using the order of fundamental operations. Okay, let's look at example number 6. Okay, in example number 6, you have to decide where do you work first. In this one, I have my brackets, I have parentheses, so I'm going to start working here first. It is preceded by a minus sign, so all I have to do is change those signs. There's nothing that I can do in here is combining like terms. I have 4, I have 3B. So my next step then would be 2A minus B. Now, take care of your signs. You remember you must change each of the signs within. So I have minus 4, minus 3B. That takes care of that symbol of grouping. Now, I'm still working in this area, taking care of like terms. Notice that I have some like terms, B and B. So I have then 2A minus, I have a plus B. Now I'm working on the inside here. Minus 2B minus 4 plus 5 A. Then the rest of my problem, preceded by a minus sign now. Remember, you must change the signs each one of the terms that are within if it's preceded by a minus sign. So that would give me then 2A. Now, this would become plus 2B. This would become plus 4. This would become minus 5A. And then, of course, the rest of my problem. Very methodically, patiently, I have eliminated all of my symbols of grouping. Now it's just a matter of combining like terms. I have a 2A and a minus 5A minus 3A. I have 2B plus a 7B, so I have plus 9B. I have a plus 4, a minus 3, I have a plus 1. So now if you just go through this thing very methodically, patiently, preceded by a minus sign, start with the innermost, work yourself to the outside, being very careful now. I can't overemphasize this. You better watch out about changing those signs within that symbol of grouping. That becomes positive, positive, negative. Don't forget you must change those signs. All right, now let's look at example number 7.